The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard Level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a Level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com. Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It is Friday, March 28th, 2025, episode 81. Coming up today, we'll be talking about Nissan's reveal of the Nissan Leaf, the new one. The US administration imposing a 25% tariff on imported cars and parts. Rivian spinning out a new company called ALSO. And of course, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the transcendent Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. And we have Dominic Yoni, longtime EV journalist and host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. Gentlemen, welcome. Tom is back from his travels. Thank you for joining in the comments already. A busy comment section before we were already on. Long-time viewers who are waiting to see how long it takes for me to glitch out this week will be pleased to hear I have two new USB cables and a brand new little dingly dongle under the desk just here, which hopefully solves some of my problems. Now let's kick off with the EV Charging Expo. Tom, you spent this week in Vegas, but it was for business, not pleasure. The EV Charging Summit and Expo sounds like the kind of place where you feel right at home. The EV Charging Expo has over 240 exhibitors, 200 industry experts, and of course, guest of honor, Tom Malogany. 5,000 attendees turned up, queued up to go get Tom's signature and autograph, I should say. This year's exhibition hall, twice as large as the previous year. There's so much activity around EV charging and all the latest tech. There were educational sessions on EV fleet, electrification, utilities, charge management, hardware, software, government agencies. And Tom, you got a little half-hour video out already on your travels this week. What were your highlights?
Yeah, so it was, I tell you, it was a great show.
What a surprise.
As you can imagine, for me, I don't go to as many of the shows anymore. You know, I used to, for years, I didn't miss an auto show. I didn't miss a CES, and I've been kind of backing off of those recently. But this one, the EV charging show, was one that I couldn't miss. And man, it was great. You know, and the great thing about it to me, the biggest takeaway is, you know how there's been a lot of negativity, particularly here in this country, about electric vehicles of recent. You know, funding is going to get cut, incentives are going to get cut. You know, the NEVI program is going to get, you know, slow walk to death. And oh wow, you know, I've had a lot of people ask me like, "Oh Tom, is this bad for you? Like, you know, are you going to? Is this going to hurt you? You know, you're going to go out of business? You know, crazy things like that." And to see the excitement at a show like this, like it totally flipped the script. Like there's just so many more companies getting involved in the EV charging space. It's crazy, and it was a lot of fun. And you the funny thing is, you mentioned in the intro, like, you know, people asking you for your autograph. I actually had somebody ask me for my autograph.
Of course you did.
Awesome. A Chinese charging company asked me to sign one of their chargers, and they had it hanging on the wall.
Yes, you just doubled its value.
I was dying laughing. I was like,
its value.
You've got to be kidding me. Like, and the funny thing is, to watch the guy who barely spoke English I went to the booth because it was interesting new charging equipment, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, he didn't understand what I did, and I'm like, I review charging equipment. I have YouTube channel. I chargers, because it's really a big industry thing. It was all companies selling and buying and trying to make connections, and then he looks at me and his eyes open up and he opens up his phone and he clicks one click and he holds it, and it was state of charge, all in Chinese. Of course, I couldn't read anything. Yeah. And he's like, he's like, come here. He gave me a marker and he's like, sign this. It was pretty funny. But I'm actually going to review their equipment. And like, it's funny because I don't think it's available for sale here. Amazing. And he's like, please, I want you to review it. I'm like, okay, I'll review your charger. But they're going to come to the market at some point. But great stuff. And it was all, what I tried to do was I could have went to, the 300 booths that are selling charging equipment, but it would have kind of been boring. So I went to a couple booths that sell charging equipment, like EVco, and they're coming out with a second generation thing, and also Kemp Power. But if you're watching on YouTube now, you see I stopped at booths that wasn't just chargers. It was interesting stuff. This company here called Catstrap, they're making an anti-theft cable. And the thing is, if you guys noticed, Tesla put out that video a while ago about equipment that they're working on, that it's pressurized, and when you cut it, dye shoots out. Yeah. It's this guy's equipment.
No way.
Yeah. So that cable there has like two different types of cable strapping. It's interesting because like a grinder will cut through one better, but like bolt cutters will cut through the other better. So he's trying to make it hard so no one tool can easily cut through it. And also it has a pressurized line. So it's got two different types of cables that wrap around there. You can see it there. Well, it's hard to see. I didn't say it long enough. One's round and one's flat. So, whereas a grinder, it would like just push it to the side. It wouldn't just cut into it. You kind of need bolt cutters for that type of cable. So, I mean, there's tech in it, is what I'm saying. And
that die defender stuff is what I think I've seen banks use when they transfer money, and that's sort of DNA'd. So if you do it, the police can identify you right down to that crime. Is that the same stuff?
Yeah. So it's the same type of material, and it's not easy. You can't wash it off, really cool. So I tried to, in this short little video I did, I tried to go to interesting booths, not just charging thing after charging thing, because I mean I find it super interesting, but it makes for a boring video.
What does it do to the cable? Sort of the, if you like, the flexibility of it. I mean, and the weight. He's got a short section there on that table that you filmed. What was that like?
Yeah. See, the flexibility is it really doesn't affect the flexibility much, because the stuff's kind of loose around the cable. It's almost as if the cable itself still dictates how flexible the thing is, because this stuff kind of just gets strapped around the cable. So you say weight. He told me that I think it was a 21-foot long cable would be 6 pounds heavier. So yes, it's adding weight, but not a tremendous amount of weight, especially when you distribute that over, say, 20 feet, 6 pounds. It's like a pound for every 3 feet of cable.
Yeah.
Kind of, so it's going to, of course, it's going to add weight. It's going to add some bulk, but what else do we do? There's some areas of the country, particularly in California, but this is a whole country problem. It's not just a, lawless California problem. But it is the worst there, because there's the most charging equipment, and there's a lot of homelessness and so forth. So if it adds inconvenience to us charging our cars, but stops this from happening, it's worth it, because what good's Electrify America will go put in a site of 8 chargers, or Tesla will put in a site of 15 superchargers, and a week later there's no cables on them. You know how much that costs to replace the cables? I mean, it might cost $15,000 to replace a site of cables, and plus, there's going to be a lag between the chargers being open and not being open. I mean, Tesla's ridiculously good at fixing their stations. We all know that. They're nuts. Like, the site goes down, 48 hours later, it's back up. EVgo, not so great, but hopefully they're getting better. So yeah, it's just one solution. There's going to be a lot of solutions out there. You know, ChargePoint has their solution. They actually offered me to send me a cable so I can make a video of how hard it is to cut ChargePoint. Not these guys. I don't know how I would get the pressurized system to really work. It would be great if I could, but I'd have to have some kind of complex thing here to keep it pressurized while I cut it. But I am going to get the ChargePoint cable and see how that is to cut.
That's fascinating. I know that the in terms of fixing stuff, we're watching Kempower on screen right now. Not that I've read the contract, but I gather if you want to be a distributor of Kempower stuff, they specify in their contract that you have to have an amount of spares on the van, as it were, on your wagon. So, which can add to the upfront cost, I guess, if you want to be a distributor of Kempower stuff. But they think about that as a hardware manufacturer. They're like, well, no, you got to carry spares, and we don't want we don't want our reputation. There's lots of reasons why they would put that in the. Not that I've read any of those contracts, of course. So that looks fascinating. And I guess, you know, when any of local authorities, or we would call them a local authority, I guess states or, you know, local areas, regional areas for you want to go electric, so that's right, we want to get the school buses going electric or whatever, then that comes with the next conversation of how do we charge them. And so when I've been to charging events like this, there's been a lot of roundtables or panel discussions or even keynotes really aimed at people who are coming in being like, right, I've been told by the boss, you know, or the board or the council or whatever, put some charges in, and you don't want to make a wrong decision and spend that public money badly. Was there much focus on that at this one?
Yeah, I mean there were a dozen or so different discussion groups with different panels. I was only there for half the show because I had to come back. I had a commitment, so I couldn't make all of them, and I kind of stuck with most of the residential charging seminars. Like I didn't do the megawatt charging one, and or you know, the ones that talked about higher powered as much. It was just a time thing for me, so I missed out on that. But there was discussions about everything there, so it was. I mean, this was the place to go if you had any business with charging a fleet or, you know, property management. This was a great show. It was better than I even thought it would be. I kind of expected to be in and out of there. That's why I didn't mind only going for half the show. But then when I was there walking around, I was like, this is twice as big as everyone was saying. It's twice as big as it was last year, that it was, you know, so much even of a better show than last year. So, yeah, it was. If you wanted information on charging, Martin, you found it here, whether it was bus and fleets or residential multifamily dwellings or, you know, equipment like this. We're at the eFireX booth now, which was really interesting. The company making fire suppression material that fire departments can use to put out fire trucks. Now, I will note this video is my video. This isn't a video of a fire department using their this was an actual video my friend filmed, who's a fireman here in New Jersey. So if they were using FireX material, it might have put it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, look, what is it? Oh, so I was just going to ask, what is that? It's like like a powder or something?
Yeah, the way they described it to me, it kind of encapsulates the module or the battery pack or whatever, and it deprives it from self-generating oxygen. You know, like the batteries can generate their own oxygen. It's so hard for it to continue to stay out because it reignites. But this sort of encapsulates it, so it doesn't allow it to reignite once it's been put out. That's the what they've told me. I'm actually they're gonna send me. I'm gonna pay for it. The small little fire extinguisher that he had his hand on just now, and I'm gonna keep it here in my garage because I have a lot of stuff here. I've got, you know, batteries here, a ton of batteries and all kind of equipment. So I figured it wouldn't be a bad idea to put one of them here in the garage just in case.
Are they prohibitively expensive or anything like that?
I haven't gotten the pricing yet.
Oh,
but I can't imagine that little canister can't be out of my budget. You know,
I mean, not out of your budget, but, you know, maybe out of mine. It could be like $1,000. You know,
I'll let you know when I find out. I don't know how much it costs. You know, they're you know, I think their main customer is going to be larger businesses like fire departments, really. You know, to sell it,
Right.
They sell it in like 50-gallon buckets or drums or whatever that, you know, fire departments can deploy in mass. Not
Right.
just those little fire extinguishers. Those would be good for warehouses and stuff that warehouse lithium-ion batteries and e-scooters and stuff like that. Airports that have run into problems where people bring those products and then they have a fire.
True, right?
Yeah.
And
Or
All
it'd be
right.
good, maybe good for like on board an airplane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would hope that.
They have fires.
Might be too
sometimes,
late
like
at that
little-
point.
Like recently they've had like little,
Yeah.
those battery packs, little whatever. There's been an issue, I guess, just recently, and they're now banned in a lot of airlines. But
Yeah. Oh yeah. They tell you no e-scooters and no, a lot of the that they tell you when you go on, because a lot of them are low quality products coming from Asia that aren't automotive grade with in modules that are designed to really keep the thermal runaway from happening. But
So in the comments they're saying that those little ones only $120. That's not bad. I mean, that'll
okay,
work.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. We'll go back next time that they're in Vegas. I'm sure Tom will be back as well. Adele and Celine Dion have both made Vegas their home over the years. Not that I'm comparing Tom to a diva, of course, but I'm sure we'd all go back and see if he did a talk there or something at a Charging Expo. They should definitely hire Tom next year and we'll go and visit. Talking about things that have been happening in the last week. Electrify Expo happened in Orlando last weekend. Discussions on range and charging and battery longevity, EV affordability, ownership, trucking, freight, power grid, and future developments. You could test drive cars like Teslas, Ford, Lucids, and Porsches. There were high-performance racing sims for virtual EV driving, live demos with EV bikes, and organizer BJ Birtwell says the event aims to break down barriers to EV adoption by providing real-world experiences. Well, Dom was there last weekend. We've got some videos coming on the channel very soon about that. Dom, what were your highlights?
Well, I got to go, and my highlights. My biggest highlight was like Miss Go Electric was there, Lacey, a sometime host or a guest host on the show, and so it was like great to see her and Mr. Go Electric. I actually met him for the first time in public, in person. Sorry. And so that was kind of like my highlight, but because I was it's like an EV Expo, so I was there last year, and so it wasn't like a whole new surprise to me. It was it was kind of like I expected, except it was super. It was super busy. There was a lot of people. BJ Birtwell was there, of course, and we did an interview with him, I believe 2 weeks ago or so, just talking about the expo this year and how he was expecting Orlando to be super busy, and it was. It was. I was there the whole first day and right up to 5, and it was like right up into the end. I did like a walkthrough video recording, which I don't have, unfortunately, available to show you right now. But, people just like were there until just like the very end, and then it's kind of scattered, of course, real quick. But yeah, it was great. I've got to drive a number of different things. Got to drive a Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's been a while since I've been in one of those, and the Lucid Air, which was lovely, very lovely. It was just like so. The Electrify Expo is for people who are like EV curious, basically, and this gives them a chance to try out all different kinds of cars or micro-mobility products like bicycles or the electric skateboards, all kinds of cool little things and spaces to try them. So it's not like a race course. So you don't get really feel all the dynamics of the car. It's just to get in and see if if you feel comfortable. There was a little section where they were still on private property, because we do go on public roads in Orlando at least, and there was a little section where you could test the acceleration, so from a dead stop to 60 or so, depending on the car, and that was that was nice. Both of the cars. Actually, I got to drive the F-150 Lightning too. That was a first for me too. Cool. All these years, I have never driven the F-150 Lightning or the Lucid Air. I'm just I've been cross country on
Lucid
those.
weren't there with it. I thought they might have the gravity there. Someone in the comments section mentioned they didn't bring it.
It's coming to different stops in the future. Actually, just speaking of that real quick, if you're in the New York area, on some of those socials yesterday, Lucid shared this little video where it has like a UFO coming down and landing on the roof of the the Lucid store in the meatpacking district in New York City. And that's just to like kind of announce that the Gravity is there basically on display. So if you're interested in the Gravity and you're in the New York area, it is there now at the Lucid store that you can go check that out. Actually,
I might have
other big.
Dom, let me cut him 1 sec. I might have some gravity charging videos coming up in
Hello.
coming weeks.
Hello. That would be
Wow.
interesting.
It was that they were at the Las Vegas thing though, right?
No.
Oh,
Okay, so it's something
Okay.
else. I love it.
Something's
All
up.
right, we look
Some
forward to that.
intrigue and mystery and all that. Okay, but I did get to ride also. Speaking of highlights, because this was actually a pretty good highlight for me, I got to ride the Can-Am Origin electric motorcycle from Can-Am.
Okay. So what's
And-
that? So that is 90 miles of city range, 4.3 seconds 0 to 60, and a 35 kilowatt motor, which is probably plenty on a bike this size. What is this, like a kind of everyday? They're riding it on trails in the video that you're showing us right now, but would this be kind of an everyday bike that people would ride?
It's like a dual sport. So on trail, in the city, it's a pretty popular form factor. This one here, it's what do you call it? like sort of like an adventure bike, kind of feel to it, and they have like the lower riding, more of a what do you call like a scrambler-ish kind of feel on this one. Nimble naked motorcycle. Yeah, seats a little bit lower, but they felt like really well put together. For one, they was just like quality bikes. I remember I was on the Livewire tour like a long time ago. The first tour across the country, Harley Davidson had their sort of Livewire road tour basically, and I tried that out on the very last stop. So these bikes had been a bunch of stops across the country already, so they been ridden quite a bit. But I got on them and they kind of like not great feel, some like the throttle, just some of the things felt a little bit loose and janky. Didn't really feel like production level quality basically. But these Can-Ams were not that. They were like solid, and it felt really great. I haven't been on a bike for a while, so I'm just like happy I didn't fall over basically.
We are too, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow. Did they give
I-
you
I-
pricing on these? These look cool.
Yeah, I have a little video coming up of talking to the gentleman there at the booth, Marc Olivier. So yeah, $14,000 for they're not cheap.
$14,000. That's not
Yeah.
cheap for a bike, and that's 90 miles
no.
of urban range. So
Right.
use
This
case
is
and
it.
all that, which is fine for what it is. But 14 grand is a very nice
Right.
used vehicle that will keep you dry and take passengers as well.
Autel had one at the Charging Summit, all like decked out with Autel lettering on it, and wiring diagrams and stuff. Like, so they had the one at their booth as the eye catcher. Everybody stops and looks at it and then walks into their booth.
Nice. Wow.
But it felt good. That's great acceleration. The throttle mapping is it's a little touchy. You have to, you had to be careful with the roll on, because those things, they really can take off. If you, So all in all,
I'd love one.
I think most riders would really enjoy this. But of course, it's 100 miles. I think that's you're not going to get that on the highway or anywhere near that on the highway at like 70 miles an hour. Bikes are notoriously bad that way. Like range wise, you need a lot of battery for a motorcycle.
No, you do.
Yeah.
But I'd love one of those. I'd like any electric bike. It'd be amazing. But sadly, Mrs. Lee uses the we all have vetoes in marriage. Don't use many of them, do we?
Right.
But
That
my
is a
wife has
veto.
vetoed me ever having a motorbike. She's like, I don't know. I just don't want you to have one. So, but she's a nurse and she fixes people who've fallen off motorbikes probably more than others. So I used to ride, but not anymore. She's used her veto. But there we go. Let's talk a little bit. We mentioned, actually, we'll take a quick break for our audio listeners. I keep remembering to do this. For our audio listeners, we'll take a break, because if I do it now, it saves me doing it later. And then we will come back and talk about lots more on the podcast today. All right, welcome back to our audio listeners. No gap for the live show. Tom, talking of range testing and charging, you had a Taycan, was it last week for a few days? I think you managed to get a 70-mile-an-hour highway range test out of it. These things can be pretty brutal on a vehicle that goes, a long way. These range tests, how did it go in the Taycan? And what specs did you get? We can see it on screen right now.
Ooh, so good.
Yeah, so I don't have any desire to say that I don't enjoy the long driving range tests in a Taycan. So, yes, it's long and it's a long day, but man, I just love driving the Taycans. They're such great electric vehicles. So I had a Taycan 4 Cross Turismo, as you see here.
Cross Turismo. The wheels on that are...
So these were the optional 20-inch off-road wheels, which isn't optimal for range testing. You want the 19-inch Aero wheels on the summer rubber, which I didn't have. It also had winter tires because many of the OEMs, some are more strict than others. Porsche is very strict with the right tires on the right time of year in their loaner fleets. So yeah, in March, you're not getting summer tires if you live in a northern state like I do. Oh, wow. So it was the winter Pirelli P0s. Those probably robbed me of 5 to 10 miles of range themselves. The wheels probably cost a couple of miles also. Still in all, as usual with Porsche vehicles, we blew by the EPA rated range, under promise, over deliver. That's Porsche's strategy. With their performance figures, with everything. This thing's 277 mile EPA range rating. It's got the new battery pack, which is larger, 105 kilowatt hour gross, 97 kilowatt hour usable. Previous Performance Plus battery was, I think, 93.4 gross, 83.5 usable. So it has significantly larger battery, higher range, and it's even more efficient. They've done a bunch of little things in the vehicle to make it more efficient, to suck out more energy than that usable energy for propulsion than they did before. So I finished up with 302 miles, crushing the EPA, and the highway EPA range rating was 268. So, blew by the combined EPA, and finished up with over 300 miles of range. And I really drained the battery. I did a Kyle Connor, which I don't always do. I'm not going to run the car till it stops and then charge it. I don't. That's not how I do the range tests. That's not how people drive their cars. I'm not saying Kyle shouldn't do it the way he's doing it. I love the way he does it. Keep running them dead. It's fun watching the car just run out of power and then pull over to the side. But I don't have a team there to back me up and charge me when I'm stuck on the New Jersey Turnpike. So, but this time I actually did. I don't think it had a mile left in it.
Wow.
And it was in super reduced power mode the last mile and a half. And Taycans don't have a big low end buffer. Even Kyle notes this when he does his range tests and runs them out. 0 kind of means 0.
They do have the kind of where you can turn it off for 30 seconds and start it and maybe get a couple of 100 meters, I think. Is that the Porsches have that?
Yeah, but I don't think the Macan did that. So now it's like, I don't know if that was like a policy as much as like, we found that it would do that. But other EVs I have found do that also. When they run to dead, if you let it shut off, turn it off, let everything power off, sit there for 5 or 10 minutes, right? Turn it back on. It'll give you a little juice to go a mile or so. That I've noticed that with other electric vehicles too. So that's a strategy if any of you guys ever run out and you're really close to even a level 2 plug, like there's one right down the block at a gas station where there's a soda machine or something. Let the car power off, sit there, shut everything off, wait a couple of minutes, turn it back on. Chances are you'll have just enough power to push you like maybe a half a mile. But in any event, I rolled into the Charger. This thing was dead. 302 miles. The consumption rate was 3.1 mile per kilowatt hour. And with a 97 kilowatt hour battery pack, 302 miles, the math comes out to 3.11 miles per kilowatt hour. So, I had, maybe a quarter of a kilowatt hour usable left. So it was a good range test. It crushed it. And honestly, if it was warmer, I did this, it was in the 50s and 60s here. If it was 75, 80 degrees and I had the 19-inch Aero wheels on it with summer tires, I bet you this vehicle would have went close to 330. in the 320s, which is, that's great for the Cross Turismo type of vehicle, where it's not the sedan, it's got that it's got higher drag than the sedan Taycan or the coupe.
That is fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. 302, great number.
I have a lot of charge recordings that I haven't edited those videos yet. Those will be coming up soon, and it's nuts, man. I mean, Porsche says 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. The previous Taycan was 10 to 80% in 21.5 minutes. So now they're saying we've improved it, now 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. This is a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, right? 97 kilowatt hours. But, the amount of energy that the station has to dispense is going to be more than 100 kilowatt hours with the charging losses, right? So 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. I did three separate charge recordings on it. All 3 times consistently beat that by a good margin.
Ready.
So less than 18 minutes, 10 to 80%, adding 70% of a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack in more than a minute less than what Porsche says it can do it in.
So has this jumped to, so it's at 0% on the video we're watching right now. Is it gone to 196 kilowatts straight away from 0?
Yeah, it jumps up really quickly.
Wow.
Really
I don't mind if it takes 2 or 3% to jump up on some EVs. But
it takes a couple percent to get up to close to 300 kilowatt. But right out of the gate, as you can see there, it's telling you that's what it can accept right now. Which is great. The Taycan tells you, based on state of charge and battery temperature, how much power it can take at any minute. So
Nice.
if you're getting the full power, which is it's a great feature to have. These are the things that we should be seeing in every electric vehicle.
Yes, because you
it's
always
simple.
blame the charger. Like if you're not charging the speed that you want, you just spent $100,000 on a car. You're not going to blame your car. You're always going to blame the charging network. And actually, if all cars had this number of this is the temperature, or just an algorithm says, I think, or just the BMS says, I can take 196 kilowatts. And if you're only pulling 150, it's not the car's fault or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was doing one of my charge recordings, there was a guy in a BMW i5. He was having trouble. We were at an EVgo station, and he didn't understand why the vehicle wasn't charging at like near 200 kilowatts, which is what their peak is, like 220 or something like that.
The dealer told him or whatever,
And I had to go over and explain to him. Well, first of all, he was plugged into a 100 kilowatt EVgo station. So the site had 200 kilowatt and 350 kilowatt. Plugged into the wrong one, didn't know the difference, and then so I pulled up on the screen. You could think EVgo tells you the amps and the volts that the vehicle was calling for, and I was able to kind of show him that and show him what to look for when you're going to see if the vehicle is pulling, if it's the charger derating you, or if it's the vehicle that's saying my battery pack's too cold, because he parks it outside. It's still cold here in northern New Jersey. At first I didn't know. Yeah, I knew it was a 100 kilowatt station, but he wasn't even taking in 100 kilowatts. So I didn't know if the battery was cold or if the charger wasn't working right. But in any event, this stuff, it's complicated. So the vehicles should be giving us as much help telling us what's going on as they can. I love it when the vehicle tells you, right now I can take 195 kilowatts. So if you're not taking it in, the station's limiting it. Maybe the station can't deliver it, or maybe it's been derated, which a lot of stations are derated these days.
Yeah. Or just sharing. Like, people don't realize the big number might say 400 above the charger, but if two Taycans plug in, then there's going to be some power sharing going on. So,
yeah. And that's what I love about the Alpatronic units that Ioni's using. Each side can still get 600 amps.
Yeah.
It's they're great units.
I saw, speaking of the Alpatronic units, I saw Electrify America is going to start using those, or is using those now.
So after this video today, I have to record here a video that I'm going to be pushing out probably tomorrow. I have exclusive information. I'm the only one that Electrify America gave this info to, and I was trying to do it last night, but I was too tired from the traveling on this topic. Nice. So they promised me that nobody else has what I have, so I'll push that video out probably tomorrow morning.
Brilliant.
Right.
Weekend watch for us. Wake up on Saturday morning and have a look at it.
It's not breaking news. It's about this fact, but they're not talking to anybody. You notice nobody, people have put out videos, but none of it's been information from Electrify America. I have the official information from Electrify America now.
Sweet.
Of course you do.
Looking forward to hearing all about that then.
And talking about official information, I don't know how I could, there's an embargo, but I have very, very big EV charging network news that I have exclusive information, a new company that's coming out that has enormous plans in the US to literally install tens of thousands of chargers, and they have the money to do so, are giving me the exclusive story on it. I'll have that within 2 weeks. I'll probably be traveling to a site too where there's a pilot site that they have that they've been keeping on the down low. But this could potentially be bigger news than Iona, if you could believe it.
And that's huge news, and that's automaker backed.
I thought you were going to say something like Iona is building like a recharger here in Tallahassee, because that was pretty big news to me.
No, I'm talking about like I can't say anything else because it's important. I don't want to piss them off.
Yeah, that's good.
This is so good.
It is, in my opinion, it's the biggest charging news of 2025 and will be. Nothing will beat this.
Wow. All right. Okay. So tomorrow morning we'll do that video, and then in a couple of weeks we'll do the biggie. We can't wait. We absolutely cannot wait for that. All right.
So anybody that thinks that Nevi dying and the current administration is killing electric vehicle charging news, guys, nothing could be more wrong than that. Electric vehicle charging is going to proliferate across America in the next 4 to 5 years like we've never seen before.
I've seen so many of those headlines this week of.
So don't worry about it. Sorry. It sucks that the program is getting basically shut down now. Even people that have committed money. When I was at the EV Charging Summit, I talked to 2 or 3 guys that are involved with Nevi funding that own companies that are installing it. They're like, we're halfway built. We've already put tens of thousands of dollars into some of these sites. And now our contacts have all been fired and we have signed contracts. The government is legally obligated to give us the money. They ain't getting that money, guys. It's just going to die on the grapevine. You know, it's if there's nobody there to sign those papers to say, okay, the money we guaranteed you would get will be released. So sue the government. These companies don't have the money to do that, to spend $100,000 suing the government to try to get, $300,000 of money that was committed to them. So that's what's going to happen with the Nevi stuff. Even though there are sites that are under contract that when I did my video, I was hopeful that, well, at least the people that have signed contracts, they'll get their money. They're not going to get it. It's just going to die on the grapevine. And basically the position is going to be sue us. And the people won't sue them because you're chasing lost money with more good money, and it's cheaper to walk away and lick your wounds and say, okay, I got effed.
Yeah, absolutely. Holy moly.
Yeah, that's a tough situation, man. That just really sucks. It just sucks.
It really does. Yeah. I mean, you should at least do, be honorable, but that's a different topic. All right. So this week, on Wednesday, Nissan held a global product and technology showcase, which was the name it gave to releasing some images about some vehicles which are coming. Now, for the US, the big news is the Nissan Leaf. The Leaf is the OG. For many people, it would have been their first electric car. It was, they're calling it the 3rd generation Nissan Leaf, or is it the 4th generation they called it? It's more shaped, like a compact crossover style than a hatchback style. It wasn't a launch, but look, Nissan have been so quiet on this. Like, we're just grateful to get something. I was thinking that they'd almost forgotten about. They've been spending a ton of money on in the northeast of England, somewhere called Sunderland, where it's made, one of 3 places, the US, Sunderland, and Japan, of course. The Leaf. Nissan's a really big deal over here with the Duke and the Qashqai. Big sellers. I think they'd forgotten that they were making a new Leaf. They've been retooling those facilities and they've just been crickets. But finally we get some information. will we get some pictures? But so Nissan Leaf obviously is going to be a global vehicle, and so when it comes to the US, it'll come with a moonroof, we were told, and then you would think that by the time it arrives, it's going to come with a native NACS J3400 charging port built on CMF EV platform that's underneath the Aria. Definitely some Aria styling going on with the new Leaf here. And expected that the Nissan Leaf is going to get a lot more miles. And so, again, we didn't get EPA numbers because it's not built yet and it's not tested. We didn't get WLTP numbers. We got some aspirational numbers. 300 plus mile numbers, which would be very good for a vehicle this size and at this price point as well. But really, that's all we got. There's news of a Rogue plug-in hybrid for 2027, a new adventure-focused SUV, an Infinity electric SUV in the works for 2028. Two other vehicles worth a mention. A new Nissan Micra, which is for European customers. Many people would have learned to drive in that. It would have been their first car. This is a small city urban car. This is going to be Nissan's version of the Renault 5. So gone are all the aggressive, sharp lines, retro lines of the Renault 5. Same platform, so you would think 40 or 52 kilowatt hour battery. Options on this, again, 20-something thousand to get into this vehicle, which is very interesting. And the Duke EV on sale in Europe in 2027. So we got a big update. But getting back to the Leaf, as Dom is showing you on the screen right now, apart from the 19-inch wheels and the panoramic moonroof, we didn't get a lot more, did we? Built in Canton, Mississippi.
Is it though? Is it built in Canton?
Oh, maybe not. The current Nissan Leaf is built in Tennessee, isn't it?
It's built in Smyrna, Tennessee right now. And there's the SUV in 27 will be built in Canton.
Oh, of course, that's what I'm thinking.
They're not saying where this is. So I was going to ask you if you've heard whether or not they're going to build them at the Sunderland plant in England there, because that's where they build them now.
Yeah, so we build them in the UK and in Japan as well. Would it be getting a 25% price increase, which for a vehicle like the Leaf, which is down at bolt values, would be a disaster? Can the United Kingdom be almost this middleman between the United States and Europe, where we wouldn't have import tariffs on our EVs? Would we get a waiver, perhaps, a special relationship between us and you guys? Whereas if we make a Leaf in the UK, it wouldn't get the import tariffs that the US put on this week. We don't know.
I wouldn't count on that.
I wouldn't count on it, special relationship and all that, but I still think we'd be lumped in with everybody else. And so, Dom, what do you reckon of the new Leaf?
So some people are asking in the chat whether or not it'll have actively cooled batteries. Like the Nissan Leaf famously is not liquid cooled. It is managed somewhat, the temperature though. So it's like the Nissan Leafs of today, the second generation, are a lot better than like the early first generations. The first couple of years, the batteries had some degradation issues. But anyway, so this is basically like it's on the same platform as the Aria, CMF EV. And it will have active cooling, battery management, so no worries about that. People are asking also why they should get this instead of just the Aria. Well, it's I believe this is a slightly smaller car, so it's just a little bit more compact, and some people like smaller cars. And I think, I think it should be pretty interesting. I imagine it'll be the same. I guess it will have the same battery and motors as the Aria, I'm guessing. So it should probably have better range than that because it's a smaller, lighter car, a smaller aerodynamic profile, I think. And so expecting it to have more range. It's interesting that it's like a crossover now, like the most popular shape instead of like it was like a wagon hatchback kind of mashup to me in the past. I feel like it's had a hatchback though, and I kind of like the way they look, but this is it's like a different car. It just has
it's shorter than the existing Leaf, isn't it? I mean, it's taller, but it's shorter than the existing Leaf.
True, right? It's shorter than the existing Leaf, but it sits up higher, and so there should be maybe a bit more cargo space in the back.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But
it has native NACS, as they say, J3400 when it comes to the US, but we don't know any more details about where it'll be made.
So Mike the Car Geek is saying we are never going to see this on U.S. roads, and I'm guessing that's because of the tariff that's coming in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know. It's going to be tough for Nissan. Nissan's already has things, things are tough over there already, right? they
Nissan has issues. I think it's fair to say Nissan has issues.
But they've got a new CEO, and he's sending out lots of like positive sounds over there. He's kind of going for it. Thinks maybe he can revive the company. I mean, I think it can be done. Personally, I was thinking about it last night, and they've got so many resources and things right now. Maybe not the best position in some respects, but I think there's enough to work with to really kind of bring the company back. But I don't know if this is the product mix to do it with, but I guess that's for the future to decide.
But the Leaf was what many people got into electrification with. I mean, you go back in the day, for us anyway, the choices were the Nissan Leaf, the Renault Zoe, or the Model S from Tesla.
Mitsubishi Miev.
Oh, of course. They're not, of course. But, that was 2011. I mean, we got some, I think, some Japanese imports in this country really early. But like 2011 or 2012, I think Leaf was properly on sale over here, right-hand drive. And, this is, so much love for the Leaf. Yeah, the battery cooling and hot climates, and it fried a few batteries in Arizona, I think. But, I mean, man, there's so much love for the Leaf. Nissan's a big deal over here. Like I say, they sell a lot of family cars. It's made in Sunderland, in the northeast. I really want this to do well. Really, but they've been, still selling the Leaf until recently, shifting the old stock and, low prices and all that. But, man, I want this to do well. I want it to be great.
The interesting thing about the new family of electrics is, we all know that Nissan is in financial distress right now. The company's in trouble, right? And we also know that the electric vehicle lineups for every manufacturer is their least profitable. In many cases, that division loses money and is subsidized by the combustion vehicles. So you're a company that is fighting for its life right now, trying to stay afloat. Is this where you pour all your money into? The division that loses money for you, or that has much smaller profit margins? Or do you try to beef up the lines that are the highest profitable lines and try to get on solid ground before you move forward with a big push on some of the other lines? Is this just show and tell? And, these aren't going to come on the timelines that they're telling us. If they do, if they manage to bring these out on, those type of timelines, then they're in a better fiscal position than we are led to believe. It seems from everything that I've heard, it's dire. And, so a company that's struggling to stay alive is going to pour billions into a line of vehicles that doesn't make them much money. It doesn't add up to me.
They seem to be taking a bit of a all of the above approach. So they have these.
But you can't when you have when your wallet is 10% of what it used to be. You can't go out and eat at the all you can eat buffet. You
right.
got to choose one food.
But a lot of the engineering for these is kind of done, right? The platform that sit on, they're boring. They're sharing platforms with Renault, and so that a lot of that work is kind of. A lot of the expenses kind of already accounted for, basically. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to cost to build, but I think the electric vehicles, I mean, it's every year it's like a bigger percentage of the market, and it could sell in Europe, which has a I think they're over 20% now, right? In Europe, EVs, new car sales.
Yeah.
Here it's just it'd probably be over 10% by the end of the year. So this isn't the greatest market for it. I
hate to sound so negative, but when you're losing money per vehicle, you don't make that up in volume.
Right.
Yeah,
we need to be realistic.
Yeah, sure. I'm just throwing that out there. I like what I see. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think it looks cool and everything. I'm just wondering, is this just propping up the company? Like, hey, look, guys, we're doing great. Like, we're not going out. Look at these new cars we're bringing out. We're bringing electric cars. We're future minded, but then the bean counters in the back are saying, okay, what could we do to stay alive for another 3 years? I'm just throwing that out there.
That's
I hate to be negative, Nelly.
No,
And-
but
and-
I think you're right, Tom, in that you've got to be known for something, and that's where Toyota are doing really well because they're just known for hybrids. And actually, when we see surveys of which is the best, what's the most popular EV maker, when you ask the general public, Toyota always come top with Tesla. And Toyota don't make EVs. And yet,
Right.
so they've got this perception out there that they do because they go big on hybrids and they make a ton of money from it. And I agree, Tom, I think you've either got to do... So Nissan have their e-Power technology, which is just a form of hybrid. It's, there's no plug socket on the side. Unfortunately, I'd like e-Power. Well, then it would be an e-Rev or just a plug-in hybrid or a series or serial hybrid with a big battery. But Nissan have got their so-called e-Power technology, which is just electric motors on the wheels, but then an engine to be a generator, but no plug, which I really
No
hate.
transmission.
Yeah, just
No plug, no transmission. It's
just
kind of an interesting
add a
system.
plug
but-
socket. Let us add clean green power to it, and then combustion for when you need it. So they've got that, but they don't seem to. Imagine if Nissan just leaned into that, like the Chinese are leaning into e-revs right now. The CEO and founder of NIO this week, William Lee, said that e-revs were a transitionary technology. They won't be around for long. Like China's gone quite big on it last year, this year. Some of the American automakers have just started kind of romancing that phrase of we're going to make, e-revs and hybrids, and this technology's been around forever. But I think the difference now is the batteries are 30, 40 kilowatt hours, not 4 or 5 kilowatt hours. That's the difference in modern hybrids and stuff. But like,
You get out of your driveway on battery.
Yeah. But if Nissan went really big on, say, like, this is the e-Power stuff, like, this is our thing, like, they would have a thing that they're known for, Tom, like you say. But I don't know.
Are they not known for e-Power in Europe? I know they didn't bring e-Power cars here, but they have. They've had it in Japan. I've saw e-Power cars in Japan in 2019.
They have it, but it's very half-assed. It's like I said in the intro of this piece, if I were Nissan, I'd be like, countdown's on to the new Leaf. Like, the pictures are coming in 10 days, 9 days. The Leaf is the OG. It's where the electrification journey started. Even if it wasn't, you can still say it. Like, and the mainstream press would believe you. Like, there's just doesn't seem anybody at Nissan to communicate the minute, I don't know. I don't know anyone in the PR department at Nissan, at least, to, like, just shout, hey, we're here and we're great at this. And then these pictures came out this week. I got any more details? Like, 19-inch wheels.
Right.
Oh my God, Nissan. Okay, it's going to have a moonroof. Great. Where will it be built in the
only
US?
a
How do we
moonroof.
avoid...
It's only a moonroof at night, though, Martin. In the daytime, it's a sunroof.
Sunroof. Like, how do we? Like, how are you getting around 25% tariffs? Don't ask us that. Where's it going to be made? Don't ask us that. What's the target pricing or what's the target range? Don't ask us that. But it's got 19s,
and it's
I
still
love
very,
Nissan. I'm just it's frustration. It's anyway.
I feel it's very fair to point out too that these are not physical cars; these are computer-generated images, a lot cheaper to make to show off. So they're watching their budgets.
But they are, like I said, they've retooled the factory where it's made. Like, I know that they've been spending a ton of money in the Northeast. Like, just drip feed the press releases all the time. Here's a picture of the new paint shop. Like, we don't, like, that's not going to change the world, but it just tells us you're serious about EVs. But anyway.
Right.
But
And
they do have like a static model of the Leaf that journalists were allowed to look at. Yeah, they weren't allowed to go in it and drive it. I don't even think they were allowed to open the door. But at one of the press events, I remember reading one of the articles that somebody said we were allowed to walk around and look at it, but we couldn't drive it. So they actually, it's not only computer generated.
It's in my feed. I think Electrifying, which is one of the outlets, I've seen that in my feed, my subs list. So I'm going to get around to that, watching it the weekend when I got some free time. And yeah, I think there are some YouTube videos of this. Good luck, Nissan. New CEO, non-Japanese CEO, but
yes, Ivan
time is not
Espinosa.
on their side. Time is not on their side, but maybe a merger. Honda.
I think this
Foxconn, which is Honda. So yeah, maybe.
I think this Rogue plug-in hybrid could be a decent seller for them, though, right? Because Rogue is a big seller here. I have a friend. That's what he just traded in his old Rogue and got a new Rogue. People, I don't really get it, but that's the way people are sometimes. So, but this is like a chance to get their feet wet in electrification, right? With the plug-in, I sit here and I think, oh man, if you can charge a plug-in hybrid, you can charge an EV. You don't really need a plug-in hybrid, but that's not the way a lot of people think. So they want to take baby steps moving forward, and this could be helpful for those people.
Yeah. All right.
And just wanted one final thing. I just want to point out, people in the comments, Cicero actually is an Aria owner, and he's just saying that he loves his Aria, but the software is abysmal. And I believe Kyle on Out of Spec has a video out this week about the software, comparing it. Earlier, Mark Longoria said, "How will the software be?" Kyle and Jordan's video on the Aria's software were almost painful to watch. So I guess there's some issue. I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet, actually. Sorry, Kyle. Yeah. So Nissan has some software issues to work out too. It sounds like, that's kind of an important part of the whole thing now.
Yeah. We'll get onto a lot more. We're good on time. We'll talk tariffs next, what it means for EVs, but for our audio listeners, we will. Mark says, Nissan, give Rivian a call. I think VW have got in there before you and taken the phone off the hook, my friend. So I think Rivian are wedded there. We'll take a quick break for our audio listeners and be back in a moment. All right, welcome back to our audio listeners. You can catch the show on YouTube, on Twitch, and of course, if you have a favorite podcast platform, I use Overcast on my iPhone, but there's loads available, and Apple and Spotify, really popular now. Then just search Batteries Included Podcast, add us to your feed. So whether you're watching it live on a Friday morning, Friday afternoon, my time, or whether you're out walking the dog or at the gym, then get us in your ears, listen to the audio version. Just do both, just recap. Then why... Why not? All right. Let's talk a little bit about some of the big news this week. On Wednesday, the United States said it would impose 25% tariffs on imported cars and car parts. Starts April 2nd. Half the cars sold in the US are assembled internationally. I will probably run through a few stats, if I may, and then we'll get Tom's reaction off the bat. Nearly half of all vehicles sold are imports. Last year in 2024, the US imported $214 billion worth of passenger cars. Mexico is the leading supplier to the US, followed by South Korea, Japan, Canada, and Germany. Automakers can't quickly alter sourcing for thousands of components. They can't relocate operations quickly. The administration talked about how these tariffs will be in effect for just under 4 years until the end of this term. That could be how long it takes to move things to North America. Experts predict substantial price increases for not only electric vehicles, but all vehicles. Cox Automotive said that vehicles made in Mexico or Canada would go up by an average of $6,000 for the average American. Anderson Economic Group estimated that some models could go up to $12,000. And Ferrari pointed out their vehicles will become more expensive, but their owners could probably afford it. What are the effects on repair and maintenance? Someone, you're in, unfortunately, a bit of a fender bender with somebody. Not your fault, but these tariffs will affect that as well. The 25% tariff on auto parts. So many of them are made outside of the US. That can be 40% or more of a typical repair bill. And that's money if your insurance doesn't cover, you'll have to pay, and it will probably raise the insurance industry as well. Cox Automotive said that disruptions to virtually all American vehicle production will happen by the middle of April as stocks dwindle. Production could decrease by 20,000 vehicles a day. It's about 30% of the output. Global automaking supply chains will be affected. This is huge for electric vehicles. Now, the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, are fully behind the tariffs. They say it will restore jobs to America. Economists said that higher prices of cars at dealerships will actually have the effect in the short to medium term of reducing demand. As demand goes down, manufacturers will furlough existing workers, not create new roles. 1 million Americans work in the auto industry and its parts manufacturing in general. About 2 million are employed at dealerships and associated roles around the United States. It's a big deal. A big deal for EVs as well. Supply chain disruptions will raise costs for automakers, and it's how much gets passed on. Everyone has an opinion, but no one really knows until it all happens. It will certainly, we think, trigger retaliatory tariffs against American-made products, which does, of course, further harm the US economy. Whoa, what a week it's been. Tom, you've been traveling this week, so maybe you've not been on top of all of it, but in terms of how it affects EVs and the EV industry, it's certainly going to be a challenging time. What are your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, so it's hard to understand um, the real end game to this. Like when somebody announces something or somebody plans something, you look a couple steps down the road and say, okay, this is really why they're doing it. Maybe there's a little bit of hysteria initially, but here's the end game. And it's hard to understand a logical end game with this, other than just you want to throw a hand grenade into an industry and just create complete havoc for everybody involved in the industry and hurt the people that buy cars, because everything will substantially go up. Maybe not 25% across the board, but everything will substantially go up. And it's just difficult to understand what the logic is in this. And if you wanted to, and you say, well, the logic is he wants he wants to incentivize building in the U.S., manufacturing in the U.S. I get it. You have to do it reasonably. You have to understand how the industry works and be strict if that's really what your policy is. And like I said, I've said before, people don't like when I say it. He did win. I didn't vote for him, but he won. And when
popular
you win,
vote this time, the popular vote.
Yeah, but not the majority vote. He's never gotten the majority vote in all three elections. Never gotten more than 50% of the vote. There's always been more people that have voted against Trump than that have voted for him. He's never gotten to 50% of the vote. So, I mean, it tells you how divided the country is. But in any event, if you want to do this, if this is your policy, okay, come out with a reasonable plan to do it. Give the automakers a time frame, and have it come in phases. Okay, by January 1st, 2026, there's going to be a 5% tariff on parts. We're gonna triple. It's going to be 15% by 2027. Give these companies a little time to plan. But when you just pull the pin and throw the grenade in the industry, nobody benefits from this. Absolutely nobody benefits from this. Well, maybe Tesla, because they are so vertically integrated with U.S. parts, which is great, and we got to give Tesla credit for that. They've always been that way. They're the most American-made car company that we have. And the funny thing is that I don't know if you saw this comment, Martin, or if anybody saw this, but one of the things that Trump did say was that we didn't let Elon weigh in on this decision to do these tariffs because it's possible he may have conflict of interest.
Right. Possible.
It's possible he may have a conflict of interest.
Possible. Okay.
But in any event, so that's my biggest gripe about this is, elections have consequences when new, administrations come in, whether they're, good or bad, or you agree with them or you don't agree with them. Things change, policy shifts. But the administration should do it in a way that doesn't harm industries, that doesn't harm its, constituents. It doesn't just disrupt everything. And that's what something like this does. And I, quite honestly think that, I don't know how to word this to he either doesn't understand that or likes to start chaos, gets some sort of perverted enjoyment out of making other people suffer. And that's horrible to even think that might be the case of a leader of a nation, that they get enjoyment out of watching other people suffer. But there's if that's not the case, just lay out what the reasoning for doing it this way. Just explain why you would do this way, because everybody is in the industry is saying this disrupts everything. It just causes nothing but pain.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of when the Biden administration brought in some rules on sourcing of Chinese software and Chinese parts. And I don't know if that's going to go ahead or not. I wonder. You'd think it would do. The two administrations are probably quite aligned on that. I forget the years, but they were like 2028 on parts that have been through China, and other way around. Software was first, and then parts were in like 29 or 2030. And even then, the car makers were like, 4 years away? We can't do that. but they were talking about software that had been through China, was written in China, IP and stuff like that. And that was probably enough time to get Chinese code out of cars and whatnot. But they gave a really long runway to that. And again, you can look at that two ways. Like, if this is an immediate national security threat, then it should just be written out of cars. You just do a stop sale. Like, you can't buy that car if it's got Chinese code in. And if it's not a national security threat, then is there a real issue? But that was given quite a long runway. And Dom, I know you're on top of the comments and stuff. And Electric had this is brilliantly researched and piece you brought up on screen now about which cars are made where.
Yeah, man, I'm glad wasn't me to put this together. This is some work actually to put this list together. I would think, unless they just asked AI to do it for them.
So this is every EV on sale in North America, and what segment it's in, or rather what body style it's in, when it was introduced. Is that it's got a year,
first production year, yeah,
first production year, and where it's assembled. So this is great. What an Electric, awesome bit of journalism here.
So yeah, it's like a reminder. Oh, the Chevrolet Equinox EV is built in Mexico. That had slipped my mind. I know the Mach-E is built there, but yeah, and also the Blazer. So I don't know how they're going to deal with this. I guess take the hit, because I don't know. I feel like these. Did they say they want these tariffs for the whole 4 years? Because originally I was under the impression it was like a kind of a shorter term thing.
Permanent.
I think I read this week that he said that he intends for them to be in operation for the time that he's in the White House.
Right.
But people say, look. Also, the White House said that this could create $1 billion of growth in North America, and he came out afterwards and said $2 trillion of growth for North America, and it's like, to the United States, sorry, and
there'll be a gazillion next week, Martin.
Yeah, like what gets said and what is reality. To Tom's point, like, that is probably the downside to being taken seriously on an international stage, which is it's just all hot air, isn't it? Like, you don't, but the tariffs were coming, then they got stopped, and they were coming, and they got stopped, and apparently they're starting again in April. And will they get stopped? And is it all a bit of a clown show? I almost hope they do come in, because they'll be like, oh, finally, what you said was coming. But I hope they don't come in, because it's obviously going to be more expensive for the average, US consumer. To buy a vehicle. The automakers don't work on the kind of margins that can just absorb $6,000 per vehicle.
Of course. And if it was any other administration, Martin, I would say this is just negotiation. There's no way this is going to go into effect because of the disruption and how it's going to hurt U.S. auto manufacturing. And there will be layoffs for sure. There's going to be sales are going to slump, parts are going to go up. It's going to hurt U.S. jobs. I suppose you could make the argument, but in the long run, it's going to help them. After the dust settles, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, other manufacturers are going to be forced to build factories here in the U.S. I suppose maybe that would be the case, but we could get to that end game without suffering the pain that this is going to cause right now to the auto industry and jobs, simply by doing some sort of a phase in. And giving the auto manufacturers a little runway so Ford and GM doesn't get so hurt like they're going to with this. I mean, they're all going to, all the auto companies are going to get severely. They think about importing 25%. The parts, we can't just build factories next week and start manufacturing parts here. It takes years to do that. So phase it. If you want to do this, phase it in years. Have your advisors understand how long it takes to go to the auto industry, tell Ford, I need a timeline, how long it's going to take you to have 80% of your parts built in the U.S. Ford will say 5 years, and then they say, good, we'll give you half that. We'll give you 2.5 years. I mean, I'm just saying that's how you that's how you do it. Not to say April 2nd.
Yeah.
Everything you buy is costing you 25% more. And
that's on top of the steel and aluminum tariffs too, 25%.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's already a increased cost to vehicles coming now. 25% on imported steel and aluminum. So that's going to hit. And I had a little the graphic I wanted to share. Actually, I don't think I have it right. Oh, I need to pull it up from my list. But so a lot of parts they cross the border like 6-7 times. In their making into integration into a car, and there it is. And so like this graphic kind of lays that out exactly what that looks like. So here we have like an axle assembly. There's a spring is shipped from Mexico. The toe link is from Ontario. There's e-brake cables from Michigan. This trailing blade bracket is from Ontario. This stuff is coming from all over the place, and it gets shipped across borders and put into something somewhere. And it's just we've been working on. I mean, this is because we do it this way because it's probably the cheapest way. I mean, I imagine they're doing this for cost reasons, right? Even though it seems like a little crazy to send things back and forth across the border a bunch of times, that would increase cost. And I think that's quite a fair point too. It may be this is a great way to kind of get us on track with that respect. But yeah,
it's well, we'll see. I mean, April 2nd will hopefully come.
Maybe,
and
will we see April 2nd too, though? Even though I mean,
I don't know.
Because he's announced these things before, and then it said no. I can't remember now. There's so much going on. It's hard to keep up, even in like our specialized fields. What is going on?
Yeah, I feel for relationships as well. Like Canada has gone. Canada. There we go. China. What are we showing on screen, Dom?
This China's cars. Tom asked me to put this up here.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
China
take a look
car
at this.
Okay.
Yeah, China car exports, and take a look over the years. It starts where China was so low. U.S. was kind of at the top. Now watch what's happened over the last 3 years. This is automobile exports. Look what happened to the U.S. once the obvious leader. And this move is only going to accelerate this.
Wow.
This is not going to reverse that. This is going to accelerate this. I think. I think what we're going to look at is that blue U.S. line is going to be down where China is now on the grid. If you look at it in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Look at U.S. car exports.
Yeah. Exports
BMW. First of all, BMW right now is the largest exporter of cars from the U.S.
That's crazy.
Right.
Not a U.S. auto manufacturer.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Look at that.
So
look what happened to China in the last. I mean, guys, look at that. The last 4 years.
Yeah.
They were irrelevant 6 years ago. Irrelevant. Right. And look at what their exports are doing now.
Yeah, they're just producing so much, and they're just expanding in the market. It's like BYD, on the electric side at least, BYD is like jumping in all the little Latin American markets, in little island nations in Southeast Asia. They're everywhere, and soon, it's.
I'll pop the link to that in the notes.
These tariffs do not help us compete with China, which on the world stage we need to be competitive with the other top nations. And these tariffs don't do that. They do the opposite of that. They do not help our innovation, which is what we need. We need innovation to compete with China, and this stifles innovation.
Now, for those that don't listen to my daily podcast on the EV industry, which charts obviously 20-25 minutes of EV news a day, so we go pretty deep on that show. There is news every single week of Chinese investments in Europe, because the EU have tariffs coming in on China cars because of the incentive structure in China, where domestic makers have just been massively, between cheap money, cheap loans. Chinese departments have to buy domestic vehicles. There's just a ton of reasons why it's unfair competition. And then in response to that, all the Chinese makers have gone like, oh, we'll build factories in Europe then. So, Hungary has been a real benefit. In the last couple of weeks, just tons of announcements of, we're going to build or JV, or like joint ventures with the Stellantis Leap Motor thing, which is 5149. Not officially Chinese, it's Stellantis, but come on. Just a ton of deals. So, China's not going anywhere. They're obviously, massive domestically, and they're coming for Europe. And I think Europe is doing the best they can to get the best possible deal European workers and what have you by getting that investment on European shores. So, okay, I'm going to charge you 35% to bring your vehicles in. At least build the factories here and employ European people to do it, even if you're bringing in semi-knockdown parts and reassembling them. None of it's ideal. I get all that. But, it is. China's not slowing down, like Tom says. This 25% tariff doesn't hurt China. Like, they wouldn't have lost a minute's sleep over this. And I'm not praising China, but there we go.
I mean,
it's terrible government, terrible oppressive government, but they're doing some really amazing things in the automotive sector right now. We have to give them credit for that. But obviously, it's a horrible regime for human rights. And I'm saying that I'm going in 5 weeks, so they're probably going to play this and arrest me right at the border when I get there.
That is crazy.
I was just kidding. It's great.
Tom didn't mean it, and that's the crazy thing.
Xi Jinping's a great guy.
The people, the culture. Like, we got close friends that are, they go back to, I think it's Shenzhen they're from, and so as friends, people, fantastic culture, wonderful. So, such a polite. All our Chinese friends are so polite and it's, this isn't an anti-China thing. If that's come across that way to me, but there is a regime there. Take for instance this week the PRC. So Tesla, about 2 weeks into launching full self-driving in China. So they launched FSD about 2 weeks ago as a trial. And then all the videos hit Chinese social media of the cars driving in bus lanes, taking right-hand turns into cycle lanes. And China, after 2 weeks, said to Tesla this week, you can't call it FSD here. Because it's China. So California's DMV, 4 years ago, went, we don't think you should call it FSD because it's misrepresented. It's not full self-driving. It's good technology, but it doesn't fully self-drive. Whereas China went, you can't call it that here. And Musk went, okay.
Right.
He's Mr. Billy Big What's it sometimes when it comes to China. They absolutely put Musk in his place. You can't. And Tesla renamed it this week. It's not called FSD in China. It's called IAD in China. It's not FSD anymore. After 2 weeks. So China just plays by its own rules. But anyway, so that is an example. We should move on to our final topic.
That's what totalitarian governments do.
Well, it can do what they want.
You don't argue with them. It's
absolutely not.
Which is what makes it so terrible. But
where are we? Right. Okay. Right. Let's finish off. We're talking a little bit about our final topic this week. Let's get back to vehicles, which is Rivian. Now, several years ago, Rivian started an internal skunkworks type secret project, and that program has now become a whole new spin-off company. Rivian launched a new business this week. It's called ALSO. That's the name of the company, ALSO, and it will be small, lightweight vehicles.
Also.
Sorry, Dom. Also, yeah.
I'm just saying also. I'm just it's just the weirdest name, for me. It's I feel like there's going to be lots of jokes in the future. Yeah.
It's just called, and they've capitalized it in the logo, so it's stylized as capitals, and yet when you read the press release, they've just written it, which of course, as English speakers in English language,
there's going to be a lot of awkward. I mean, as a writer,
you just see
I use
also
a lot.
That's such a common word. It's like calling it a lot. Our new company's called And. Oh gosh. All right, it's fine. Rivian is a substantial but still minority investor in the new company, a company called Eclipse Ventures. It's $105 million into it. Rivian's CEO, RJ Scaringe, very, very well known for thinking deeply and broadly about how the planet decarbonizes. And, the answer might sometimes be, if you need to get somewhere, do you do it as a single person in a big truck, or maybe you do it on an e-bike or an e-scooter or some sort of other e-mobility. I don't know. Do we know what they're making? I mean, this is a very broad release of the company, Dom, but do we know what kind of vehicles they'll be making? It's not Rivian, it's ALSO. But what are they going to be making? And what would you like to see them make, Dom?
Well, the president is spent 10 years at Specialized Bicycles. So I expect, and this little clip from their website here, you can see there's a little action thing, and that's a cargo bicycle basically. It looks like so it had a big cargo thing on the front. I'm pretty sure it's a bicycle. I guess it could be a motorized scooter. It could be a motorized. It's probably a motorized bicycle, but yeah. So the president of the company, what was his position? He was a chief product and technology officer at Specialized, but he was the VP of future programs at Rivian. But he's now also, which is a separate company, but with a special relationship. And so he says they're going to make everything south of homologated cars, basically. He told Inside EVs. So not mini cars and not. Or it could be four-wheel vehicles that just aren't homologated for regular roads, like a golf cart type thing, maybe. But I'm looking more like bicycles. I'm hoping there's some like interesting form factors or that kind of something that can maybe grab people's attention. It's like, oh, I've never thought of that. Like we have those several different kinds of one-wheeled sort of mobility products. One of them's like a skateboard, with a wheel in the middle, and I kind of like those things. And I see a fair amount of those around here. I'm in a college town, so I've seen a fair amount of one wheels, like students whipping around town on them. Those are cool. And then they also have those like a bigger wheel thing where you kind of straddle the wheel and you can sit down, and it's like a self-balancing thing. Anyway, I don't know what form they can really get, or what kind of form factor really could grab people's attention, but I would like to see them come up with something besides just like another bicycle, and hopefully too not something that's like a premium price. Rivians are kind of a premium product. They make really nice products, but I feel like we don't really need more $8,000 electric bicycles, really.
Yeah, e-bikes.
There's lots of those out there. So quality, yes, but man, I would like to see some affordable solutions as well. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? I'd like to hear from the audience too if they have any ideas. Some people saying they love their one wheels. That's cool.
It's hard to say. A small, affordable transport that kept you isolated from weather. I think that's important. Particularly, I think New York City, because I'm so close to it and I'm there all the time. A lot of friends that live in New York City. When I was younger, even more friends that lived in New York City, loved the city life, going to college and so forth. And, getting around was, it wasn't too hard with public transportation, but I know a lot of them would like to have their own personal transport. They couldn't afford a car, couldn't afford to park the car. That it would cost more than the parking. So if there was something small and compact that you could use to get around that, kept you, from the elements, I think something like that would be, there'd absolutely be a niche for that. But, there's obviously tons of challenges with negotiating the roads with, the bikes and the cars and taxis and everything. Does this thing have a separate lane? Does it, where does it get recharged? It's obviously electric. There's not a lot of charge points in the city. Is it so compact that you can carry it to your apartment and plug it in? Then it's probably not going to encapsulate you so that you're not exposed to the elements, and that's going to be a non-starter for a lot of people, at least in cities that get cold and rain a lot. So it's tough to say what they're doing here. But I'm all for new ideas for urban mobility. There's too many cars, in the cities. We've got these. Go down New York City. You know how many big Chevy Tahoes and Cadillac Escalades there are? These big freaking living rooms with one person driving them. Clogging up the cities, but ruining air quality. So it's great to have smaller, zero emission vehicles moving people around the cities, but I don't know how you get that, that middle ground between a bicycle and a car. What is that? And it sounds like that's what they're shooting for.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
What is it? See,
what's this?
I like to see it. So I just pulled up the little picture of the Hyundai Inster. So this is like a small EV, like I don't know, it's like K size, like a Japanese K car size deal.
The Inster.
They just released a spicy version of it.
Yeah, which is basically a massive wing with a car attached to it.
Right. Yeah. These are kind of really cool looking things.
This is a Insta's
Kyle
cool.
was raving about them when he was in South Korea recently.
Yeah, they're popular there, and it's called the Casper there, and it's called the Insta outside. I imagine those that own the IP to the friendly ghost had a word outside of South Korea and said, "You won't be calling it that." It's called the Insta outside of South Korea. But
Is that like a neighborhood electric vehicle, Dom? Like,
No.
is that no?
No.
So that's
No.
highway capable and everything.
Yeah.
So then that wouldn't fit into what we're
No.
doing here, because they're
No.
talking
Quite,
about
not
something
quite.
sub.
It's just a lot smaller than we have on our roads here, really. Unless you import a K car from somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it can't be smaller than a smart. They're smarts in the city.
No.
Oh, true,
Insta,
right.
Insta's like a 20,000, 21,000 euro car. So
Yeah.
like 42 kilowatt hour pack, I think. Yeah, it's decent. Insta's good. Like, it's really good.
I'm thinking something along the lines of smart, like a tiny
Right.
smart car that's neighborhood that qualifies as a NEV, so it doesn't have to go through full crash testing and all that
That
stuff.
would be
because
interesting.
it has got a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. 30-mile-an-hour speed limit would be enough for New York City. The major cities driving around. You don't go faster than that, but it can't leave the city limits. Maybe like in some sort of a car sharing program, like they have with the bicycles, the e-bikes in the cities. Where there's an area set up where they're all parked up, charged, and you take them, scoot around, and there's a whole bunch of places set up where you have to drop them off. You can't just leave them on the street somewhere.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
True.
Lots of people in the
remember back
comments mentioning that Björn Newland, the Norwegian YouTuber, is doing a 1,000-kilometer drive today in an Insta. And I keep seeing my notifications this week. I think he's had been doing all sorts, highway range testing and stuff in the Insta. So that's my weekend viewing as well from Björn back home now. Norwegian home anyway, doing his testing. He's so good. Look at the comments. Very popular. All right. Now, before we go, mention that Rivian is coming along with the R2 because their factory construction's underway at the main factory grounds in Normal, Illinois, according to Tony Sanger, VP of Production Facilities, and I quote, "All of the new buildings are now going vertical. That is, walls, structural steel bays, roof decking, and roofing materials are well underway," end quote, which is great news. Fantastic to get a little update on that. R2 is coming along, and he says that they are on track for R2 coming in 2026 as planned. I guess so many EV programs get delayed that they're on track for 2026, which is great news. R2 is the future of Rivian. If Rivian's going to be around, R2 has to work. It's not, I'm not being too sensationalist in saying that. This absolutely is the company's future. I know everyone got a bit excited about the R3. I almost wish they hadn't done an and finally, and one more thing, because the R2 got a little bit overshadowed at that launch, but the R2 is it's the real deal. It's a great vehicle. We can't wait to get them being made. They're expanding their factory in Illinois for this one before they build any more new sites. Good update.
Gone vertical. All the walls are up, or the walls are going up.
Absolutely. Looks good. I think that's about all we were going to mention this week, apart from good news for Hyundai and Genesis drivers this weekend. So while you're watching those videos that are coming out this weekend from Dom, maybe on the Expo in Orlando, from Tom on his bit of charging news this weekend, then maybe while you're doing a charging stop, watch some videos, because Hyundai and Genesis owners can now get access to Tesla Superchargers and also by default Kia as well, although not officially, which is weird.
Kia's part. I heard Kia wasn't part of it. So
No, they're not. But if you drive a Kia, you can still use an adapter and use a Tesla Supercharger, which you could do for about a week earlier this year.
Right.
And now you can do it again.
Right.
Which is cool. So if you got your vehicle on or before January 31st this year, you should have an email waiting for you in your myhyundai.com account or your Genesis account, and then you get a free adapter. They're free, aren't they? Which is a good deal.
They're free. You gotta just send them an email. It had to be signed up, I think, with a myhyundai.com owner's account and opted into receiving emails. They'll send you an email, actually. And if you bought your car on or before January 31st, then you can get a free adapter from them, from Genesis or Hyundai. I'm not sure if Kia I don't think Kia has that set up for their owners yet.
Yeah, different. They have a different policy, Dom.
Right. Okay. Right.
So
yeah.
Get your
And
adapter for free.
People in chat are mentioning the 2026 GMC Sierra EV, which is, we just kicked into 2025. I can't believe they're releasing this doing this already, the 2026s, but yeah, a little bit of updates on that stuff. So they've introduced a few more trims, 2 more trims, the AT4 and the Elevation, and they've lowered the price of the Denali. That's the top trim. And they have different sized batteries. So you can get it as cheap as $64,500 right now. The Elevation with the standard battery is
Till April
64,000.
2nd.
Right. Right. Because, I don't know. Where's that one built?
Yeah.
Well, the parts, I'm sure the parts aren't all from
Right.
the U.S.
True.
GM's not going to take that big of a hit on if the car costs them $6,000 more to make. It's
Right.
not a matter of importing it. It's the parts to make it. I mean, that's what. It's not just the vehicles. It's all the parts, and we know with the global supply chain that we have now, we don't manufacture a lot of parts here anymore. It's just unfortunate.
So that is what coming in at the Elevation is at 64,495, like you mentioned, and then the entry-level standard battery option, and the Sierra EV undercuts the Cybertruck by a good 15 grand. So if you're cross-shopping those vehicles, of course, this is the end of the month and the end of the quarter, and so on a future episode, maybe even next week, we'll be able to properly dig into Q1's numbers. Now, Tesla don't split out Cybertruck. But there have been those that watch US registrations saying that February, obviously, there was the containment, wasn't there, hold on the Cybertrucks and then the full recall. So that March is going to be, gnarly. In other words, really, really bad. But we'll wait and see.
It may be not indicative of actual demand. We
of course
expect
not. No, of course not.
that'd be great, but
yeah, it's
Right.
they couldn't. They had a containment on them, so they weren't delivering them, and so we'll wait and see. But those numbers won't probably we won't get them next week, but still, yeah. And a couple of people in the comments, actually more than one this week, which is interesting, saying, "Did you see Polestar launch their Polestar 2 certified pre-owned in the US this week?" Yes.
they had a nice little video for that, actually.
They did.
that
We've
up.
probably got just the last 30 seconds to show that if Don wants to bring it up. This is on a social media post of sort of a Formula One pit stop of checking the battery health there and all the various bits and kind of mimic
good
of
bath.
giving it a bath and Polestar 2 certified pre-owned and I think we've got that already. So you guys have that now as well. Nice little video there. Like a Formula One pit stop of the car being serviced, and off it goes again, which is cool. Obviously, I'm a massive Polestar fanboy these days, so I'm gonna totally approve of this.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yeah.
And that is probably your podcast in the books for another day and another week. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and listening. If that's how you consume what we do every single week. Let's keep the conversation going in the comment section of YouTube, best place to find us. And while you're there, hit the thumbs up because it tells other people who might like EVs that they might like to watch or listen to this show. You can hit subscribe while you're there. Your little bell icon will give you notifications. And as always, if you join us for the live show on Friday morning, Friday afternoon, and joining in with the live chat, we could not do this without you. We absolutely adore seeing you in the comments and taking the temperature of where the EV world is every single week. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again very soon. Oh, hey, Dom, say ciao.
Ciao. All right.